Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. Ooh, I'm excited today. We are talking about real estate investing, specifically medium-term rentals. You might have heard about like Airbnb strategy or something like that. We got like a whole new strategy for you with Zeona McIntyre. She has been an Airbnb host since 2012. And after 10 years of managing short-term rentals across the globe, she's transitioned to selling real estate to investors. And she's just like, she's awesome. So I really enjoy this strategy talking about midterm rentals. And as I wrapped up the interview and was chatting with her, I was like, my husband and I are going to be looking at the strategy because it sounds pretty good. So we're going to dive into the episode. Enjoy. Hey, Zeona, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rachel, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sorry, I didn't hear you right away.
Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I am a speaker. I'm a real estate agent. I'm an author with BiggerPockets. We just wrote this book last year called 30-Day Stay with Sarah Weaver. And the book is all about medium or midterm rentals. Some people call it midterm rentals. And that is month-to-month furnished rentals. And so I kind of came from this place of short-term rentals. I did that for 10 years. I managed properties all over the world. I was in 5 countries managing properties. And then kind of COVID helped me pivot into the space of longer stays, which are monthlies instead of nightlies. And now I'm helping people do that.
Cool. So why the midterm stay? Why do you like the 30-day rental as opposed to the like just night after night?
Yeah, a bunch of reasons. I like it first just for ease. And I think that being an investor for 10 years, I have done a lot of the hustle. And now I'm like, oh, cool. I want to sit back and like reap the benefits and have something easier. And so when you have guests on a nightly stay, they have to learn your whole house in 2 nights, right? 3 nights, 4 nights. So they'll have those same questions over and over again. But with monthly rentals, our average is 3 months. Wow. And so somebody may or may not have questions in those first couple nights, and then you don't hear from them at all. Right. And so there's a lot of ease with that. And it's a different type of tenant. A lot of times these people are coming for work. And so they're a little more professional than somebody who is coming to party and relax and might spill wine on your sofa, stuff like that. So I find it to be just a better experience all around.
Yeah, for sure. How do you market it?
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. It depends on the tenant you're trying to capture. So there's really 2 distinct branches in this space. One is more, I think, common that people hear about the most is like digital nomads. Now people are like living in Airbnbs full time, which is pretty fun because they can work from anywhere. You get a lot of travel nurses. So that's what we hear about a lot. Business travelers who are coming in to work at like the local office for a little while. That kind of tenant, you're going to find them on Airbnb or a website called Furnished Finder, which is mostly geared to medical professionals, but is kind of expanded out now. It's gotten really popular. And then the other type of guest is more corporate housing. So that could be film industry, it could be construction companies. Those are the types of people that are usually staying at extended stay hotels. Mm-hmm. And our places are so much nicer than that. So capturing them, capturing people that are displaced from insurance claims, so fire, water damage, that kind of stuff. They are going to be on different websites. So we're currently like building that side out because there's a lot of upside. And that is like 8 websites. So if anybody wants to know, they can reach out to me. But yeah, it's a little more complicated.
So you do list them on Airbnb. You can list on Airbnb, and then there's a bunch of other ones based off of like the niche you're targeting.
The type of tenant you're going to capture. Yeah.
Got it. What countries are you in?
So now I'm just managing my own properties. So I just have 12 units and they're all here in the US. When I was managing abroad, I noticed that it was highly seasonal and I just didn't love that. So if you're in Europe, for example, people can't take their kids out of school. It's illegal unless it's a school break. And so here in the US, you can take out your kids any week, anytime you want, right? And
Right.
so that makes it less seasonal. And for them, it's like you will absolutely have the 2 months of summer booked and like Easter, stuff like that. But otherwise, you'll have a lot of dead space. And I just didn't love that.
Got it. Okay. How do you find the right property for this strategy?
Yeah. So again, that has to do with which branch am I serving, right? So if you're going to be doing digital nomads and nurses, you're going to want 1 or 2 bedroom units. So small. They can be in like a duplex or like a multifamily. They can be condos. And so that's like a great way to start for a lot of people is they just want something small. They're going to test the waters and it's easy. If you're going to be going towards insurance, that's more geared towards families, and you'll want a single family home and you want it to be 4 bedrooms or more. And the reason being is the bigger the house, the less competition that you have.
Which one would you recommend to start out with?
I usually have people start with small units, but it really depends on what are their goals over time. If they're saying, hey, I actually just want to have 5 big homes and that's all I'm going to do, and I want to really learn and dedicate this strategy, great. But if you're a little more hands off, you've got maybe a full-time job, the smaller units take less management, I guess is what I would say. It's like the bigger stuff, if you're going for insurance claims, you actually have to get on a phone with the adjuster, kind of hash out the details. There's just a little bit more high touch, but the upside of the money you can make it's really crazy. It's a lot of money. So if people want to invest in that, great, start there. But if you're like, I don't really have the time, you can get booked on Airbnb and it can be practically automated with small units. So it all just depends.
Got it. Okay. How do you actually evaluate a property? So let's say you want to buy your first property for this strategy. How do you look and make sure you're buying something and you're actually getting a good deal?
Yeah. So I look at them like a long-term rental. The only couple things that I'm going to put in different in my spreadsheet is that I'm paying for utilities. So I want to estimate for that. And then at the top, I'm going to be talking about furniture because a lot of times people might have a line for rehab if they're intending to do that. But furnishing is a really huge expense and we want to calculate that ahead of time. And then your rent is going to be a lot higher. So that kind of helps too. But generally, I want to see a 15% or greater return on my initial cash invested.
Is that year over year, or what does that look like?
It's a cash on cash return. So yeah, you take the total you spend up front, and that can be anything from rehab to down payment, closing costs, furniture, all that kind of stuff, and then see how it applies to what you make every year.
Okay. So let's say I have a property here in the Orlando area and I want to do like a long-term rental. Compare that to a 30-day stay. What would be the difference in what I could charge from long-term for like a year lease, let's say, and then a 30-day stay?
So it really depends. A lot of times people want to just say like, oh, it's 1.5 times or it's 2 times, but it just really depends. So when you have the smaller units, like a condo or something, that's going to be just less room to grow. You're going to be more at that 1.5 to 2 times market rate. But if you're doing insurance, I can just give you an example. I have a friend in Atlanta with a 5-bedroom home. He is all in at $2,400 a month. So he bought it before interest rates were crazy, but he can rent that out to insurance people. He's got people in there right now for almost $8,000. So, a long-term rental might be like 2,800, 3,000. Yeah. Wow. So the upside is really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, my jaw dropped for people listening to the podcast.
Ta-da! I love that.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. So explain the insurance thing again. So this is like people that lost their homes. What website are you using to market with this one specifically?
Yeah. So there's a top 4, but then there's a bunch of others because you can be doing like corporate relocation. Corporate relocation is really cool. Just like to give people an aside is if you're a real estate agent and you're working with people relocating, they generally want to go and buy a home after. And so you can like double make money with them. So I think I've sold homes to like 3 or 4 of my guests, which is just a great bonus.
Yeah.
But for insurance, it could be a lot of different things, right? It could be a natural disaster. It could be just frozen pipes. Sometimes people have fires in their home, like an electrical fire or something on the stove. And then they have to be out of their home for a couple of months. So that's where the insurance comes in. And if you're wanting to get an idea of like, what can someone charge for insurance, the way to look for that is if you go into your own policy, you can kind of just snoop around. There is a section called, is it like Schedule D? I think it's a coverage D. Sorry, I was just having to think about it in my mind. And the coverage D is loss of use. And if you look at that, it's usually applying for a year, and it's usually 25 to 35% of the home's value. So if you look at that, you're thinking, wow, I can charge 25% of my home's value in an entire year. And some of those stays end up being 11 months, 9 months, stuff like that. So that is a lot of money. Yeah.
So how do you figure out how much you can charge for your property?
Yeah. So there's the good old comps, right? So if you're getting on some of these websites and you can look around at what other people are charging, there's kind of a series that you can look through. So you can go, what are short-term rentals charging? Because short-term rentals is like one of the options of where they could go. So you can go on Airbnb or Vrbo and check in there. You can also check in one of the websites we list at is corporate housing by owner. So in there, you can kind of like check around, and there's usually very little inventory. So that's another thing, is you just don't have a lot of competition. So you can generally charge a lot. You can also compare to a Hilton. So what generally happens for these families is maybe a family of 5 will need 2 or 3 rooms at the Hilton.
Yeah.
How expensive is that for a month?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be like $30,000. So you
Yeah.
have a lot of leverage to say, oh, actually, we need it to be 11,000 a month. And it's going to sound crazy, but it's normal for them. So you can kind of look at these comps and then figure it out. And it's also just trial and error, right? You do one and you realize, man, I only charged $5,000. I could have really charged 8. Next time we try to charge 8, right? So kind of learn as you go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say we want to get started with this strategy. What are some of the first things we need to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, have the right type of home, right? So a single family home is going to get a lot more traction than a condo. And then you want to be at least 3 bedrooms, but really 4 bedrooms plus is going to be something where you just have a lot less competition. Because the competition right now is REITs. So, those big funds where their hedge funds are buying like, thousands of properties in a swoop. They can go in and they can rent furniture. There's places like Court that they have very corporate, not cute furniture, but they'll fill a place and they'll put people in there. So if you're competing with 1 and 2 bedroom units, like that's who you're competing with, but they don't have the single family homes. And so they're just, you can kind of just be on the less competitive side. And then you're not up against these big companies with, deep pockets. So have the right type of property first and foremost. But if you do have that, then list on the couple of websites. So there's probably like the big 4 that I would say. ALE Solutions is one of them. TA Cares is another website. THD, it's Temporary Housing Directory. That's another. And then CRS, which is Corporate Relocation Services, I think is what it is. So those are the big ones. There are like 15. So, I mean, if you want more, reach out to me, but those are great places to start. And it's a little bit of a waiting game. I know some people out there, they teach about cold calling and, building relationships. And I think it's more that when people come and reach out to you, don't let them go. Stay in touch with them, keep them on a drip campaign, send them in a monthly email. But going out and doing lots of cold calling, I don't think you have to do that. It can be very time consuming, kind of lead to nowhere.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been in real estate for a while. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Oh man, that's interesting. I think while I love social media to see what's possible, I think it can also be really disappointing for people to see someone who's like, oh my God, I just started and in 2 years I've done everything. It's really a long-term strategy. So I would just like remind people that you might mess up. Real estate's very forgiving. Really look at it at the long term. Don't try to get rich quick. I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged.
What are some mistakes that you've made and lessons that you've learned from it?
One of my biggest mistakes was around a partnership. So I love partners. I have lots of them. That's not a problem. And working with friends and family, also not a problem, but you just have to pick your particular partners very well and make sure you have everything in writing.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. So I didn't have everything in writing with this partner. It was really a handshake deal. I thought I knew him. We had everything agreed upon. And I even drew up some contracts and a promissory note, but he just didn't sign them. And it didn't go very well. And luckily we got out of that partnership a couple years down the road, and I left pretty much unscathed. But I think it just gave me a lot of food for thought about, okay, this is a long-term relationship. It's almost like marrying somebody, like really vet who you're going to work with.
Yeah. What's one of the best books you've read?
I really like Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss. And that is a book all around negotiation. I think negotiation in real estate and business and life is just a really important tool.
Yeah.
So that's an entertaining book for sure.
Yeah. What does it mean to make an impact?
What does it mean to make an impact?
Yeah, to you.
Interesting. I mean, I would say that it's something I aspire to. It's like one of the things that I love the most is when somebody says like, you inspired me to do this thing and now I'm out here and I'm doing it. Like, that's what it's all about. I love that. But I don't know if that should be someone's main goal. Like, I still think you should live your life for yourself. And I think sometimes people get really distracted about the fame and trying to be big enough. So I guess that's only my personal opinion about it, but yeah.
Yeah. Where can we connect with you?
Yeah, ZeonaMcIntyre.com. I'm on Instagram as well, Zeona McIntyre. So yeah, reach out.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit about the book that you just launched?
Yeah, so 30 Day Stay, we wrote it with BiggerPockets. It's all about midterm rentals. So if you want to get into that strategy, I didn't know as much about insurance. So there's only a little, we did a bonus chapter that is including some of that, but there's so much more to learn. So I think midterm rentals is just like really in its infancy and there's a lot of upside to it. So it's an exciting time to get started in it. And the book was written with Sarah Weaver and I. So we have a lot of our personal stories, a lot of case studies, mostly women, which I love. And we tried to just make it really fun and easy to read, as well as very actionable. We wanted someone to be able to like buy a place as soon as they were done reading it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed learning about the strategy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.